Good morning, hello, and welcome to the Monopoly Summit. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is great to have you here. Before I go any further, I'd just like to make sure that everything is working correctly, that I'm coming through loud and clear. You can hear me at that end. So jump into the comments, jump into the chat and let us know. Say hello, say good morning, say good afternoon. You know, no matter where you are coming to us from today, it's great to hear from you guys. It always gives me a lot of excitement and pleasure to see people joining us from often Australasia, Australia, New Zealand, or even often outside of Australia and New Zealand as well. And that's awesome and really exciting. So please jump into the chat. I do actually have the chat up over here. So if you see me jumping over and having a look here, it's because that is where the chat is. And I can see your comments coming through. So as I said before, jump in, say good morning, say hello. If you have questions as we're going through, please jump in and throw them in there. Anyway, my name is Jono Frankle, and I will be your host today for the Monopoly Summit. The Monopoly Summit brought to you by Wealth Mentor. And as your host, part of my job as well is to ensure that you guys get the best possible experience from the summit. And part of that is for us to understand exactly what it is that you guys are here for. So my next question for you, and again, please jump into the chat and throw that up there, is in terms of your investing, in terms of coming to a Monopoly Summit, are you joining us because you're looking for that first investment property? You're looking for that first home potentially? Or are you at the stage now where we're looking to scale up your business? You're looking at the ability to be able to go and build on that current portfolio and buy the next property, and start to scale up. Or at the same time, maybe you've already scaled up and you are here because you want to keep educating yourself. You want to keep growing as an individual. And I have huge respect for that. I'm a big believer in personal growth and personal education and continuing to become the best version of yourself. So I applaud you for being here today. And thank you very much. It is great to have you here. Now, in terms of the chat, I do have our team available in the chat. They'll be the behind the scenes. So if there's any questions or anything as we're going through, drop your questions, your comments into the chat, and we will be then able to address those and make sure that you guys are sorted. As well as that, if you need us, we've also got the email address, office@wealthmentor.co.nz. You guys would have received a few emails from me already in terms of the link to join us here today. Please, if there's anything, yell out. We would love to hear from you. Tech team, my comments, either no one has actually said good morning to me, or my comments aren't actually coming up here. So if we can sort that out, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. All right. My first question that I'm going to go throw at you guys, and hopefully we can get these comments coming through. Yeah. Sweet, they should start to come through soon. The first question I do have for you guys is, what does Monopoly actually mean to you in real life? What does Monopoly mean to you in real life? Let's have a think about that one. We've got 1 second, team. All right, we just have there we go. What does Monopoly mean to you in real life? We can come bring the slide up, please, Nims. Now, until we get these comments sorted, I'm actually going to not be able to see any of them coming through for you guys. But have a think about, what does Monopoly mean for you in real life? Jump into the comments. For everybody else that's jumping in and having a look, you'll be able to see those comments coming through. I mean, I guess there's some interesting points when it comes to Monopoly in real life. You've got the concept that, you know, in the game, everybody has the ability to go and collect your $200. You work your way around the board. At the same time, it comes down to rolling of a dice. But the rolling of the dice has a decision to be made once the dice has been rolled. Taking one step back, you actually need to roll the dice, first of all, in order to be able to then have the ability to make the decision based on where you land on that roll of the dice. This is a really, really important concept, because having the knowledge, having the education, having the power behind you to be able to make an informed decision once you land on a particular property, a particular square, is really, for me, what playing Monopoly in real life means. And when it comes to playing Monopoly in real life, I guess there's one person for me that really stands out, and is probably the pinnacle of property investment, and the name Robert Kiyosaki. If you haven't checked out any of his books, you must read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is the key property principles that you really want to understand in terms of jumping out there and becoming a property investor. But I love this quote. I began playing Monopoly for real when I was 26 years old. Today, my wife and I have approximately 1,400 little green houses, each paying us monthly. You do not need to be a rocket scientist or have a Harvard degree to play Monopoly for real. And well, there we go. Chat's coming through. Fantastic. And I guess I am the living proof of that, guys. You do not need to have a Harvard degree. I definitely do not have a Harvard degree. I definitely am not a rocket scientist, but I understand the fundamentals in order to be able to ensure that we can continue to grow as individuals. There we go. Is the chat all working nicely now for us? Thank you, team. I really appreciate that. So let's go back. Say good morning, please. Make sure that everything is coming through and everyone can hear me loud and clear. And we haven't had any issues. I just don't want to go on any further and there is anything. All right, cool. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. Awesome. So in terms of today's summit, as I said to you today before, it is brought to you by Wealth Mentor. And part of the options coming into today's summit was the ability to have 3 ticket options. You had the ability to jump in and join us today for free, no charge whatsoever, to join us and have access to the summit. We also had the ability for you guys to choose to have a ticket for life at $29 or a ticket for good at $49. The ticket for life is the ability to have the recording of today's summit for life that is yours to take away. As well as that, there is a bonus Q&A with the team on Wednesday night. For $29, the ability to jump in and have a Q&A with investors who are out there doing it, you can't beat that opportunity. So that is on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. In terms of the ticket for good, and I absolutely love this one. If we can go split screen here, please, Nims. I absolutely love the fact that we have the ability to do the ticket for good. This here gives me great pleasure because Wealth Mentor, if you haven't realized, we have a tagline here that says making wealth accessible to all. And for some people, wealth is going to be the ability to get out of poverty and be able to help. And being able to do the ticket for good gives me great pleasure. Today's charity in terms of Monopoly Summit is going to Mekong Plus, which is a charity which is all about helping those villages in southern Vietnam and southern Cambodia, getting them out of extreme poverty. So for $49, you get the ability to do the ticket for good, which is really a powerful opportunity. But I have something extra special. I sound like a little bit of an infomercial here. But what we are offering today is that if you are looking to take on the ticket for good, you will buy the ticket for good for $49. You will actually get access to all the summits that we've done this year. So for $49, you get every single summit done this year, including today's one for life that is yours. And we will still be donating the $20 upgrade to charity to the Mekong Plus. So for those of you that have potentially purchased the ticket for life, if you go on in, there's going to be a link that's going to be dropped into the chat. The team will sort that out where you can upgrade your ticket. You can either choose to grab the ticket for life or you can grab the summit special, which in turn will mean that we can ensure that we are donating and helping those Southern Vietnamese and Cambodian get them out of extreme poverty. So please, link will go into the chat now. If the team can sort that out, that would be fantastic. And anyone that wants to upgrade, it's a nice, simple process. We've got that there for you, and we can do some good with these summits, and we absolutely love that. Awesome to see the chat coming through now. That's so good. Awesome. I believe that you guys needed to refresh the page in order to be able to get the chat working. It may have been a little bit of a setting at our end, and we apologize for anything in that regard. Right, let's rip into it. Because in terms of changing the way that we view our financial literacy, in terms of being able to understand the best way to grow as individuals, I love this quote. I changed my life when I changed my thinking. It is such a fundamental quote. The team today will be giving you multiple tips, tricks, and concepts that will provide you the tools in order to change your thought process. We're going to be challenging the fundamentals on the thought processes in terms of purchasing investment properties and achieving that financial freedom. So enjoy, take it on board, and enjoy the challenge that you're going to get from today. Here's what we'll be covering off today. We'll be covering off property investment strategies that work in today's market. The market is forever changing. What worked potentially 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago is potentially not working now. We need to look and grow with the times. Today's property investment strategies. I'm going to take you through the 5 keys to being able to play Monopoly in real life. You're going to learn how to use equity in terms of scaling your business. And as well as that, we're going to show you how you continue to educate yourself and continue to grow as investors and become the best version of yourselves out there, creating the best possible situation for you and your family. And boy, do we have a lineup of speakers joining us today. I am very excited to be able to have these guys joining me for the summit. Split screen, please, Nims. In terms of the team we have, we got Belinda joining us. Belinda is done exceptional things over the last few years. You guys are going to love her presentation. Every time that she presents, people take so much away from it. She's achieved so much. And as well as that, she's one of our main mentors and speakers, part of Wealth Mentor. She does a great job, and she will be joining us today from her home in Raglan. And it's a great pleasure to have Belinda here. She was actually host of the Wonder Woman Summit, which is one of the summits that you will get with the ticket upgrade. And you guys will enjoy hearing from her. We also have Therese joining us today. Therese is doing some really cool things. And the exciting thing is this is Therese's first presentation on a summit, and she is excited, and she has done so much prep. I've been so excited working with her and preparing for today. She really just wanted to ensure that you guys got the most out of it and learned as much as possible. So that'll be really exciting. And then we have Tim joining us. He's joining us from Melbourne. You know, we won't hold that against him as being from Australia. Actually, Belinda's from Australia as well. It's from the Aussies. But Tim will be joining us, and Tim is fairly new to the Wealth Mentor family, but has purchased an exceptional group of properties and is really grabbed at the concepts and grown with it. And I think you guys will really enjoy hearing his story and learning how he's been able to scale his business so quickly. And that will be a fantastic one to get into. Now, before we go any further, let's jump into a little bit about who I am. So for me, that's my family there. That's my beautiful daughters. Isla's the eldest, Harley is the youngest, and my beautiful wife and rock, Karen there. You know, yes, I'm married to a Karen. I think it's quite hilarious how everything in the media now is about being a Karen. And I certainly give my wife a lot of grief about it. But my family is everything. My family is the reason why I got into investing in property. It's about creating the best life possible for my family. My first investment property was actually on a reality TV show. It is a funny story, but me and my wife entered a reality TV show, and we ended up buying a property, renovating and selling it as part of our first home. For those of you wondering what that show was, it was a lot of fun. It was an eye-opening experience, but that was my real taster into what property can do for a family and for your life. So that really was a powerful opportunity to go in and do that reality TV show. A lot of fun in that one. I am the managing director of Wealth Mentor. The cool thing for me in saying that is I started where you guys are today. I started by attending one of Wealth Mentor's events, enjoying it so much, taking on everything that had to offer, growing as an individual, growing through becoming a mentor, becoming a director, and now managing director of this company. It gives me so much joy, and I can really stamp my personality and my values on this business. And I really enjoy the fact that we get to give so much and educate so many beautiful people out there who are out there just looking to change the world and change their financial future. It really, really is a powerful thing. I've been investing in for a while now, as well as that mentoring many, many students and guiding them to their own financial freedom, which is a huge honor and a huge privilege. As well as that, I'm a massive sports fan. I absolutely love my sport. In a previous life, I was a tennis coach. I grew a few kgs since being a tennis coach, but it's been a great transition to jump across and invest in property. And again, it proves that you do not have to be a rocket scientist, like Robert said. You do not have to be a Harvard degree under your belt in order to be an investor. Hey, I was just a tennis coach and I've managed to do it. So for you guys out there, there's no excuses whatsoever. Couple of pictures. Here is actually the TV show we're on. We're on it with my beautiful in-laws, Tom and Robin, and we had a great time jumping on and doing our first home. A lot of fun. But as well as that, I've been really proud to be featured in the Property Investor magazine quite a few times now. I think around 6 or 7 times featured in there with multiple different stories, including renovations on kitchens and stories. There's my daughter again with the 200th issue where they did a little bit of a feature on me. One of the coolest things I think as part of Wealth Mentor is the fact that we've been able to share the stage with some exceptional presenters. We're talking about Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Tom Bill Yu. We're talking this man himself, Robert Kiyosaki, and being able to meet Robert Kiyosaki. That's me explaining to Robert Kiyosaki how I managed to break my hand watching a game of rugby. It was a positive break. I can assure you that. It wasn't when we were losing. We did lose the game, but the All Blacks scored a try, got all excited, and managed to break my hand. A bit of a silly one for sure. But we've got Robert Kiyosaki and then the amazing Tony Robbins as well. Being able to spend time or be able to share stages as a company with people like this is a huge, huge honor. And I think it really bodes well for the amazing company that we do have here at Wealth Mentor. A little bit more about who we are at Wealth Mentor. We have had multiple students achieve financial freedom. We're talking about all these articles in the media. Our tagline, once again, making wealth accessible to all. I think it's exceptional to see what we've been able to achieve in Australasia and being able to change so many people's lives. Split screen, please, Nims. This actually just on me. We don't need to see that anymore. You guys have seen that enough. The thing about Wealth Mentor that I'm most proud of is the fact that we are a purely education company. Our goal, our motto is all about being able to educate and change people's lives through the power of knowledge. We do not sell property. We have no properties for you guys to buy, because at the end of the day, we need to teach you how to become the best possible investor you can be. And that is what we're going to be doing here today. We will not be selling you a property. Great. You would have noticed that we had the tagline. I've mentioned a few times. The tagline, making wealth accessible to all. Well, hopefully you guys have all got your chat sorted so you can jump into the chat, because I've got a question for you. And that question is, what does wealth actually mean to you as an individual? You guys out there watching today, wanting to create wealth, what does that wealth actually mean to you? Because for everybody, the concept of wealth is different. Slide, please, Nims. The concept of wealth is different. So what does wealth mean to you guys? I want you to have a think about that. Jump into the chat. Hopefully you got all the chat sorted. While you do that, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. Freedom and choice. I love that. Thank you, Sandy. Wealth is really an interesting topic because often wealth is associated with money, but it's not necessarily about money. For those of you that catch my coffee catch-up that I do a show called Coffee Catch-up, which is basically have the opportunity to have guests on, or I will do some teaching. It's run we ran it every day through lockdown. It's now every Tuesday and Thursday. We go live on our Facebook page. I get to ask this question to all my guests, and I absolutely love asking the question because it's an ability to understand the individual. What does wealth mean to you? This week's guest talked about the fact that for them, wealth is about health. Wealth is health. He said, without my health, I have nothing. Wealth is all about health. So for you, I want you to really think about, what does wealth mean to you as an individual? Is it about these nice fancy cars? Is it about the watch? Is it about the private jets? Or is it about the fact that you have the choice of time? Is it about the ability to choose what you are looking to do with your time? For me, wealth is all about my family. I am massively, massively connected in with trying to create the best life possible for my family. I think it's a value that was passed down from my parents. Originally, I was born in South Africa and moved to New Zealand when I was 13. Managed to kick the accent mostly, but For me, seeing the sacrifice that my parents made in order to create the best life possible for me and my sister has really resonated with me in terms of just trying to create the best life possible for my family. So please jump in the chat and have a think about, what does wealth actually mean to you? For me, as I said, my family, I absolutely love jumping out and doing some fly fishing. There's a picture in the bottom left there of me fishing, but no fish, because I think it's about the experience. Yes, I did catch, don't you worry about that, but it's about the experience and getting out there. And lastly, in the top right corner there, that's actually a photo coming to you from our studio here at Wealth Mentor. Right now, right here where I am standing. I absolutely love educating. I love the ability to stand in front of you and be able to share knowledge and be able to help you create the best life possible for yourself. It's funny because Wealth Mentor, prior to COVID, we would stand in front of crowds. We're talking about, sharing stages with Tony Robbins and Kiyosaki, sometimes standing in front of crowds of 2,000 to 3,000 people. And now I've got Nimesh sitting behind the camera there, and a camera. It's a bit of a change, but at the same time, we get to impact people all around Australasia and the world remotely, and it really is a huge, huge honor. A little bit more about who we are here at Wealth Mentor. This is where the office that we are coming to you from today. The office is based in Parnell. If you're ever driving along Parnell Road, I'm sure you will spot us. It's a huge honor to take on the role of managing director of this company. It's a company that has over a decade of experience in educating investors. And for me, I've been able to bring my own spin on it and been able to really transform into a company that is doing so much good for so many people. And I absolutely love that option to be able to do that. Right, enough about me. Let's have a look at how we can start to transition our thinking. How do we start to transition into becoming the best version of ourselves as an investor? For me, the key element is starting to work on the mindset, understanding the transition of the mind in terms of how we are going to go about our investing, how we're going to have our ability to understand the rules of money, understanding the best way for us to create that financial freedom. The cash flow quadrant, something that Robert Kiyosaki talks about, is so powerful, and something, again, I want you to really consider. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that very shortly, but before I do that, one more quote from Robert here. The poor get up every day and go to work for money, and taking time to ask the question, without taking the time to ask the question, is there another way? And you guys are looking for that, hence being here today, which brings me to the cash flow quadrant. This really is the fundamentals of the mindset in terms of becoming a property investor and becoming financially literate. These principles were made popular by Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. If you haven't read the book, write this down, Cash Flow Quadrant. Cash Flow Quadrant is another one of his books that I definitely recommend you reading. It's all about the transition from the left side to the right side. What we're going to show you today is all about what that right side of the quadrant looks like. We are very good, don't get me wrong, at educating. But in a couple of hours, for me to be able to transition you from the left side to the right side is probably not going to happen. But this usually takes generally, at least 3 days of education in order to make sure that we can transition you from that left side to the right side. We will also then be able to create a plan going forward so you can continue to stay through that transition and become the best version of yourselves. For those of you not aware, E stands for employee, person who's trading their time for money. Self-employed down the bottom, essentially the concept of owning your job, owning the ability to trade your time for money. But we want to transition over the right side. We want to have a business owner. We want to have systems in place that are creating the best possible opportunity for ourselves, and the investor quadrant. When you invest in property, you are going to transition over that right side with the way that you think. As soon as you transition your thinking, you will see a huge results within your business, and it's something you really want to take on board. Definitely write down the cash flow quadrant. At the end of today's summit, I will be offering you guys the opportunity to join us on our Cashflow Masterclass. It is a 3-day event that will be streamed virtually from the studio here into your living room, bringing in some of the exceptional speakers that we have and mentors to be able to educate you guys further. The course is under $500 a day. It is an exceptional opportunity to grow. This was they're very much a starting point for me in my investing journey. And when Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad came to Australia, it was Wealth Mentor that rolled this program out through the region, through Australia and New Zealand. Again, we're here to educate. We're not here to sell you property. Because a quote I came up with a couple of months ago: don't buy off the plan, have a plan. Back on me, thanks. Don't buy off the plan, have a plan. What this is essentially saying to you is, if you have the ability to purchase property, going out there and buying something at retail price and hoping that the market grows is not the way an educated investor goes about their business. Yes, there is the ability to go and get some education from certain providers where they will, at the end of it, go, here we go, have a property, and they will get a nice little kickback on that. For me, that is not what it's about. It's about ensuring that there's a plan in place to buy the right property in terms of getting you to where you want to get to. That is what we're about here at Wealth Mentor, is about creating a plan, about having ideas and having the knowledge to be able to make informed investment decisions. So you're buying properties that are below market value. You have the ability to add value. You have the ability to create cash flow. Because monopoly is about creating cash flow. It's about buying properties that people are going to land on so that they have to pay you money in terms of being able to pay their rent. Now, we're not here to become slumlords. We're not here to rip anybody off. We're here to provide the best possible greenhouses, red hotels that we can, so that our tenants, our clients are having the best experience living in our property, and we are rewarded for being that business owner. It's funny, the whole concept of, well, you know, how negative it is around property growth within New Zealand. But what about the growth of so many other elements? You know, I'm currently looking at purchasing a car for my wife. Actually, we paid the deposit on Friday. We bought a new car, and it was really interesting going through the process, because talking to people that are in that industry selling cars, they're like, used cars are actually well up in price. And what we're seeing is that inflation is really affecting so many different avenues, but property is the one that is always in the media. But we have an opportunity, if we are smart about when we're going in and buying our properties, to ensure that we're enjoying the ride and making sure that we create the best future for our family, the wealth that our family deserves. Right, before I get into sharing the 5 keys to playing Monopoly in real life, I need a sip of coffee, and I'm going to show you guys all about the property investing pyramid. Guys, keep the chat coming up as well. Don't be afraid. Say hello at any stage. Anything that you enjoy the moment, please feel free to jump in and let us know. We'd love to continue to hear from you. Okay. When it comes to the investing pyramid, down the bottom at E, we have owning your home. This is really the base to investing in property. It really isn't investing. It's kind of a liability, but we'll get to that a bit later. We then have buy and hold. This is jumping in and buying properties that are standard, simple homes for the families out there through the regions, through the different areas that are going to create cash flow for you. As we grow through the investing pyramid, we have trading, flipping. We then move to multiple income properties. These are more the red hotels that we're talking about, and we're going to show you a few examples of these today. And then the ultimate, and where we see the most I guess, risk associated, but also often a greater return, is in the development space. It really is about finding what level of investment is going to work for you in terms of achieving your financial goals. Back on me, because everybody's financial goals is different. Everybody has a different starting point. Everybody has a different end point that they're looking to achieve. Our job here at Wealth Mentor is filling in those gaps so that we can make this as seamless and as quick as possible, collapsing the timelines to ensure that we're getting that job done as quick as possible. All right, it's time to get into our 5 keys of playing Monopoly in real life. I'm really excited to be sharing this. This is something that I've been working on over the last few weeks. It's quite a massive job preparing for one of these summits. I'm just like to put that out there. The amount of hours that we prepare in order to make sure that we can bring this summit to you. For $29, you guys are getting a damn good opportunity to join us and enjoy the content. So first of all, let's jump into the 5 keys of playing Monopoly for real. And option number 1, or key number 1, is buy income generating assets. When it comes to buying income generating assets, there is nothing that is outperformed the ability to invest in property and creating cash flow through property. Cash flow really is the key element. It's a word that we talk about. The 3-day course that we are offering is called the Cash Flow Masterclass. You really want to understand that cash flow. It is the key fundamental calculation when it comes to determining whether the property is right for you. It's also about understanding what is cash flow and what is real cash flow, because you often see properties advertised, whether through social media or other avenues, where they'll say, buy this cash flow positive property. But is this property actually positively cash flowing when you take off every single expense associated to the property? Often, and this shocks me, often these properties are marketed without associating the interest as an expense against the property. So they are taking into account that it's a positively geared property when you don't have a mortgage associated to the property. So you're just going to fork out cash for this property and create an income. Any property can cash flow if you don't have a mortgage associated to it. We want to be able to show you how to buy properties that are 100% leveraged. If you had 100% loan on that property, I'm not saying you will, but if you had 100% loan on that property, it was still creating you a positive cash flow. It is still creating you an income, and in turn be able to enjoy the money rolling in each month, the cash flow, the passive cash flow, without having to get out there and do the work. Let's have a look at the calculation we have here. So we have income and less expenses equals your cash flow. So your income obviously being your rent, and then look to take off your expenses. And I'm going to show you an example in the next slide, which I'm really excited to be able to show you a really recent deal that has settled in the last few weeks. We take our rent, which is our income. This is just like any other business. We take off our expenses. Interest, definitely make sure you're taking your interest off as an expense. Your MOE, MOE stands for monthly operating expenses. If you don't know that, make sure you write that one down. You want to make sure you're associating your monthly operating expenses to this property. As well as that, we're then going to take off our management fee. We are not in the business of managing properties. We're in the business of buying properties that can create a cash flow. For today's summit, I wanted to get the most recent deal possible to show you how a cash flow calculation works. I went out to a bunch of our students, and I managed to get one that settled at the end of September, and I'm really excited to be able to share that with you. This is a standard property in Rotorua that settled end of September. We have a purchase price there of $335,000 and a $5,000 reno associated to this property. Let's run through these numbers so you understand the cash flow calculation. First of all, we take into account our rent, our income on the property. We now look to take off our expenses associated to the property. So we have interest. For this interest of this property here, I've taken this calculation using a 60% LVR. LVR stands for loan to value ratio, how much the lender is willing to lend you on the property. I've taken 60 because that's your worst case scenario that you're going to get. We're then having a look at our interest, which is the 60% LVR at 2.79 is what the lending was approved at on that one. Less your monthly operating expenses at 182 and your management at 182, which is 10% of your income, creating a cash flow of almost $1,000 per month from the single property. Without having to get out of bed, the property is putting $1,000 in the bank account every single month. The rent on this property is $320 per week. And in terms of that renovation, I know there's probably a few questions out there. What renovation can you do for $5,000? We're talking about a heat pump and a few little tidy ups within the property. In terms of establishing a gross yield, I want to actually run this calculation. So Nimesh, if we can actually come onto the whiteboard, please. I just want to make sure that you guys are on top of the gross yield. It's a really simple calculation, but it's a great way to determine how hard a property is working in terms of its rent associated to its purchase price. So the way that we run our gross yield is we take our annual rent divided by our purchase price. So we can actually, no, I don't have it on the slide there, annual rent divided by purchase price equals gross yield. So for this property here, we had an annual rent, well, we had $420. So if we multiply that by 52, if anybody can jump into the chat, otherwise I can, have I got it? Yes, I do. 420 times 52, 3. Has anybody got that calculation for me? So I have actually worked out. Anyway, so we've got annual rent 420 times 52 equals, divide that by its purchase price, 335. And this should come out with a gross yield of 6.5%. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Dev Bell. Appreciate you jumping on that chat. Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Cool. I did have that number right. So if we go that over there, divided by that, we're going to get our 6.5%. Gross yield is a really interesting calculation. We can go back on the main screen. Thanks, Nims. Gross yield is a really interesting calculation because it doesn't take into account our expenses. And often people associate gross yield as the key element in terms of determining whether they should buy a property. It's a determining factor that we want to take into account. But if it doesn't take into account expenses, what if this property had huge monthly operating expenses? We're saying potentially this property had a massive rates associated to the property. Great thing about this one is the rates aren't as high, so it does mean that we are able to get a better cash flow out of it. So gross yield is generally something that is more determined around commercial properties because a lot of the expenses are passed on to tenants. But in a actual residential element, you're really looking to establish your gross yield as a determining factor whether a property should be investigated further. How hard is the property working in terms of rent compared to purchase price? Next calculation I want to make sure that we're on top of before I get to bring up our exceptional guest very shortly is our return on investment. How hard is our money actually working for us? How hard is our money actually working for us? So if we look at this property here, we had cash flow of 984. All right, if we multiply that by 12, jump into the chat for me, that's going to give us how much income this property is earning us per year. How much income the property is earning us. So we're going to be just shy of $12,000, about 11.8 or so. I'll give it a couple seconds. And what we're going to then do is divide that by the money that we've put into the deal. So dividing it by the money put in the deal. So I've got this calculation. We had a $335,000 property. Taking 60% of that one is what we're borrowing. So that means we're putting 40% deposit in. So 134K is going into the deal. Have we got a calculation for this one yet? Team, anybody jumping on that one? Otherwise, I'm just going to use 12,000. All right, time's up. So it's about $12,000 of income from this property per year divided by our purchase price will give us a return on investment, which off the top of my head is around about a 9% ROI. All right, so this is a really standard property. It's the ability to buy these is not very hard. It's about understanding the numbers. But the key elements when it comes to a property like this is there money in the buy or is the ability to add value and create equity? I know that this particular property, the investor was able to buy slightly below market value and is going to be able to create equity in order to keep leveraging and buying more. Leverage being a really, really powerful option. Cool. Thanks, Bobby and Carol coming through. It'll work out to around about the same, so we'll run with that one. The next concept I really would like you guys to understand before I do bring on Therese is the ability to understand leverage. Leverage is huge. The ability to take equity from another property and use it to buy more properties. When you understand the concept of leverage, your investing will never be the same again. This single word right here is why property outperforms every other asset class. It is powerful. Often people have equity in a property. Equity is the difference between how much you owe on the property and how much the property is worth. That equity can be leveraged into more property. And if anybody has owned property in New Zealand in the last couple of years, you've seen some exceptional growth. We're talking about growth since the last lockdown of over 30% in growth. So if you have owned a property, there is more than likely you have created equity in your properties, which gives you the ability to leverage that equity and buy more property. And this is something, again, I can't stress enough, you need to understand the concept of leverage to be able to grow your portfolio. Let's have a look at a little bit of a concept. So if we did have a property, let's say that you owned your own home and you purchased that property at $640,000. All right, that is your own occupied property that you purchased. You have now gone and put in a 20% deposit. Because it's owner occupied, you're generally going to get 20% deposit, which means that you have, actually, sorry, I've got my numbers wrong. I want to actually work off at 800 to get myself jeepers. 800, apologies team, $800,000 property, which means that's going to give us a $640,000 loan against the property. I was trying to work off my round numbers. I remember that I had the 640 and I forgot that I was starting at the 800. Apologies, team. So now if we go out there and we have a property that is worth 800, and let's say that we've had potentially 25% growth in the last year. 25, because I want to work off nice round numbers to be able to explain this concept. We have now had our property go from 800 to 1 mil. And this is very common for anyone within New Zealand and actually Australia recently, where we've seen such crazy growth. We now have a property that's gone from 800 to $1 million. So now we've got a property with $1 million. We have the ability on this property, based off a percentage of a 20% deposit, which is a 80% LVR. We have the ability now to borrow $800,000 against that $1 million property. The bank is willing to lend you $800,000 because the property is now worth $1 million. The great thing is that we've actually got a $640,000 loan already. So we've got a $640,000 loan already, which means the difference is going to be $140,000. So we have $140,000 of what we call usable equity. This usable equity right here has the ability to go out there and buy more property. Now, I need you to get your calculators ready because I need an answer on this one. $140,000 deposit is how much in terms of buying power? Easy calculation. If we're going to use a loan to value ratio of 60%, which is again, worst case scenario, if you go mainstream bank, 140 divided by 0.4, we should get a number of, so 140 usable divided by 0.4 equals, anybody on that for me? Otherwise, I'll tell you, $350,000 of buying power. $350,000 of buying power. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Lisa. Deepal, you guys are on the ball, you three. Appreciate that. So the interesting thing is, guys, we've managed to go out there and buy a property for $350,000. What about the property I just showed you in Rotorua? What about if we now were able to use the equity sitting in our own home to be able to go and buy this property in Rotorua? Let's have a look at the numbers for that now. Numbers, can we bring that up? So again, we have the $335,000 purchase. We have the reno at $5,000, but now we're borrowing all the money. So the rent hasn't changed. We're borrowing all the money to go out and there and invest it. We're using the equity that we had available in our house. This is giving us a higher interest expense because 100% of the 335 at 2.79% gives us a interest expense of $778, same taking off the 183, same taking off the 182 in management, giving us a cash flow of just under $700 per week. This was done purely by using equity in a home, as simple as that. And what about the return on investment? Can you work out the return on investment now for this property? If we have gone and we have taken a property that we have put none of our own money in, and we have created $684 per month of cash flow, times that by 12, divide that by the money you put in, which is zero, what you're going to get on your calculator is a word saying error. Because your calculator is going, what the hell? You can buy property using another property? Brilliant. It's called the concept of leverage. This is powerful. You're creating cash flow from equity sitting in your property. Never mind the fact that we're going to be buying these properties with the ability to add value, with the ability to create more equity so that we can continue the journey and continually buy more and more properties. This is the power of property. And again, why property is such a powerful investment to be able to do. Great question coming in terms of the ability to deduct interest, which brings me to my next slide. Look, something I prepared earlier for you, Tusha, is taxes. And I'm sorry if this offends you, but I find it hilarious how people are always so concerned about paying taxes before earning the money. The fact that you are now not able to claim interest as a deduction on your investment properties does hurt the bottom line in terms of paying more taxes. But at the same time, if you are buying high cash flowing properties, this then gives you the ability to ensure that there is enough margin in there. And at the end of the day, there's other expenses associated to your business. And this is about being a professional property investor, about being the knowledge to be able to ensure that you are claiming the right expenses against your property. You have your properties in the right entities because you want to make sure that you are able to claim as much expenses as possible. Again, if the property has the ability to have high cash flow, then there is that meat in there. There's also a couple of other key strategies that you want to consider in terms of the interest deductibility. The ability to get property that has a new code of compliance. This can be achieved by adding dwellings to properties and getting new code of compliance for that title. This in turn changing the use of the property as a new build and giving you 20 years of being able to claim the interest deductibility. There's ways around this, and this is the key element to becoming educated and understanding the best way to invest in your future. This has probably led people to wanting to go down the new build route, but why buy off the plan when you can create this? Why buy somebody else's equity, creating someone else's profit when you can be the one creating the profit by going through the process and purchasing the right type of properties with the ability to use that land? We've seen huge growth. We've seen 30% of growth in property out of the last lockdown. What are we going to see out of the next lockdown? I don't see us having anything less than more growth because of the fact that the government is once again putting another $41 billion, I believe is the last figure I heard, into the economy in terms of the COVID recovery. It is a great time to be buying assets because asset prices will continue to grow. So my goal when it comes to tax is to pay as much tax as possible. That's what I want to do. I want to pay as much tax as possible. New Zealand has an exceptional tax system. We have the ability in New Zealand to just pay income tax and GST. It's about structuring yourself to be able to be the most tax efficient. Believe me, I want to be tax efficient, but I want to pay as much tax as possible because that means I'm earning as much income as possible. I hope that's covered that off. But the great thing is, guys, for those of you that will be joining us at the Cashflow Masterclass for 3 days, we will spend over an hour with a tax-specific specialist in order to understand exactly how you can be the most tax efficient, how using the ability to create the new build out of your properties is going to give you the ability to be able to keep growing. Another great question in terms of serviceability. This is why we buy high cash flowing properties, so serviceability does not become an issue. The serviceability continues to grow our portfolios because there's income coming from the properties. Awesome. We'll get to some of those questions as well, guys. As well, if there's more questions, don't forget we have the Q&A on Wednesday night, and I would love to dive into some of these questions in more detail. So for just the $29 or $49 the Summit upgrade, again, I'll get the team to prop that link into the chat again for you guys. We can go into some serious details with you guys in person over a nice Zoom call on Wednesday night. Right, I'm really excited that I'm going to be bringing up our next guest very, very shortly. Therese, absolute legend. But it really comes down to our number 2 key in terms of playing Monopoly for real life, and that is to grow your cash flow to exceed your expenses. Grow your cash flow to exceed your expenses. This is the concept of creating financial freedom, that word that we hear all the time. We are about trying to create the freedom of choice, the freedom of our time. So this here is a huge, huge, powerful element. What we really want to do is we want to be able to make sure that every single property that we purchase is creating an income, and eventually all the expenses that we've got, including our living expenses, our food, is covered by our money coming in. Right. I think that's enough from me. I want to make sure that Therese is coming up loud and clear. So team, can we bring Therese up next to me and make sure that we've got her? All right.
Hello everyone. How are we all doing? Can you see me?
Fantastic.
Can you hear me? Give me some comments, some love. And I cannot hear you, Jono. So, and I'm just looking at all my screens. So unfortunately, we had some tech issues this morning, which means I cannot hear Jono. Thank you. Perfect. So feel free to comment along. Put any comments in. I can see them on the side of my screen there. So if you see me switching across, I can see your comments as well. And if you have any questions, the team will help answer them along the way as well. Thank you. Awesome. So here we are. So a little bit about me. So I grew up in Norway, and ever since I was little, I always had a really fascination of pulling things apart and putting it back together again. So for instance, my mom's computer was mostly more on the floor in bits and pieces than up on her desk, actually in a working condition. So, which actually brought me to study IT and get a Bachelor of Computer Science. So I have worked as a systems engineer for almost 12 years now, mostly within the infrastructure operations team, which means I get to pull things apart, I get to troubleshoot and problem solve issues on a daily basis, which obviously is what I love doing. And do we have any other engineers on here today? I'll see if I can see some comments coming through there. So I came to New Zealand almost 10 years ago after a round the world trip, and I fell in love with New Zealand and decided to come try living here for a year. And this is when I met my partner, Luke. So 1 year turned into 10 years and counting. So I have a very strong analytical and structured mindset developed through working in the IT industry. So that's given me an invaluable skills to help grow our property portfolio. So most of all I ever wanted to do was to go traveling and exploring, which is what I also have been doing. So who here also loves to go traveling? Awesome. So traveling has always been a really big passion of mine, and I've taken every opportunity to go traveling and exploring over the years. So from volunteering with Lions in Zimbabwe, you can see down on the right-hand corner there. And I've been volunteering at a wildlife park in Australia. You can see that on the left, a little echidna. I've been flying a helicopter over one of the world's most active volcanoes in Hawaii. I've been cage diving with sharks, spending a day at a temple with the monks in Thailand, learning to dance tango in Argentina. And once I got stuck in a cyclone in the beautiful kingdom of Tonga. So lots of adventure and maybe sometimes a little bit too much. But yeah, you'll never see a happier face than when I get to spend time with animals. So you'll see me running around. You'll see a horse up on the up in the middle there. So you'll find me running around. The horse will be running. I won't be running a few times a week down here in Queenstown. So that brings me to, what does wealth mean to me? So wealth to me means freedom and freedom of choice. So freedom to go traveling, and I cannot wait till we can go traveling again. And freedom to give back and to do volunteer work and to be healthy and to be able to share my story and help inspire others. So my thirst for adventure that has never really stopped. And I always look for ways to challenge myself and push through the fear of the unknown. So I think we all have that fear of the unknown. It is what we do with that fear that makes all the difference. So if you look at my face as I jump out of that plane on the right-hand side there, that is 100% fear and 100% excitement and adrenaline. So if you jumped out of a plane, you will know what I'm talking about. That is, yeah, it's just the most scariest thing ever. And then, yeah, just the most amazing feeling ever. If you could go picture names, thank you. So when was the last time you faced your fear? When did you last time do something, or faced your fear? So this quote that you see there by Tony Robbins. So life is found in the dance between your deepest desire and your greatest fear. So I have this quote sitting on my bedside table, and there's a constant reminder to me to always focus on what I want and always face my fears. So this brings me to the year 2016. So me and my partner, we started looking for property investments, which was something we were both really interested in learning more about. So we started reading all the books, we watched all the videos, and we went out looking for properties. But we had no real plan, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we were fearful of doing it wrong and not succeeding. So we knew we needed help to get it right. So 2 years later, we came across Wealth Mentor, and I instantly knew that this is that next step and the education that we needed to get started on our investment journey. So we now had a clear goal, we had a plan to get us there, and a power team around us. So with knowledge comes confidence. And we were now ready to work on our goal of financial freedom within 5 years using what we had learned. Oopsie, wrong slide. Awesome. So this picture as well, you'll see there, that is us standing on our land, which was to become our first home. So we built our house that was completed in 2018. We still live in that house today. And the other photo, or the faded photo you see on the side there as well, that is the same view today. I took it a few days ago. So there's so many houses built around there, which is pretty cool. Awesome. So this brings us to playing Monopoly. So we were using leverage. So this is what Jono talked about earlier. So we used leverage to secure our first investment property. So we were looking for high yielding properties. So we were looking for high yielding properties when we came across this one. So it needed a substantial amount of work, but it was structurally sound and it had plenty of upside. So for instance, it had a strange little room, as you can see on the left there. So we turned that into an office. So we now had a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and an office. So we had further options down the line as well to convert the garage or add another dwelling at the back. So this house, you can see in the middle there, it was pretty, it was in a pretty bad state. So there was plenty of birds living in there. So we call it a bird's house. You can see it's missing a window there as well. So it went from a bird's house to, next slide, to a castle. So what do you think? Did it look better before or after? So as you can see as well, so we open up the front door. So I'll just quickly go back. So you can see the front porch there is all covered up. So what we did is just open that all up to display that beautiful door and entrance. And that gives that house now a great street appeal. And that is also like the first impression that your valuer will see, and even your potential tenants or buyer if you go to sell it. So it just gives that first impression, which is important. Cool. So next one. So here you see we have gone from nice purple, purple pink, and yeah, no window on the right hand side. You can see as well there was actually 2 windows missing in the end. But yeah, nice neutral colors, off-white walls, dark carpet. That is all you need. So here is the bathroom. So as you can see on the photos there as well, we have opened up. There was like the bathroom was sectioned off, the laundry was sectioned off. So you can see in the photos on the top that we have removed the walls. So we added value by doing non-structural changes, because these walls weren't load bearing, which meant we can remove them and get a nice big open bathroom. So you're adding value that way as well, which is really, really cool. So you don't need a resource consent or anything to remove those non-load bearing walls. So if you pay attention to the details in the photos in the bathroom and kitchen on the next slide, and I will tell you why shortly. Perfect. So which one do you think is the before photo here, left or right? So I love interior design. So I had a lot of fun with this one, as you can probably tell. Thank you, Carol. And my partner, he's really creative. So he came up with the idea of painting the coal range and making it into a lovely little feature, as you can see on the left there as well. How cool is that? Bit of a difference, right? Awesome. So let's look at some numbers. So we bought this property below value at $152,000. So we had other offers came in at around 180, but they were turned down. So learn how to negotiate and create a win-win situation between yourself and the seller. So get to know your real estate agent. They're part of your power team. So learn to know what your vendor wants. That way you can create these win-win situations. So we had a weekly rent of $380,000. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Weekly rent of $380, which would give us a yield of 9%. And how many of you have a rental at the moment? And what is the yield of your property? Are you getting that nice high return on your investment? If not, what can you do to increase it? So we were operating with buying rules of minimum 8% yield and minimum 20% equity creation. So set your buying rules before you start looking for properties. So that way, you know exactly what you're looking for and you don't waste your time. Does that make sense? So buying rules is something that will be covered at the Cashflow Masterclass that Jono mentioned earlier. So the property got revalued at $325. So that's an equity creation of 35%. So if you did that calculations, that's a profit of over $100,000 on our first deal. So cash flow per month after expense is at $519, and that's again after all expenses. This is cash in your pocket. So how would you like to get $519 per month in passive income from spending none of your own money? How cool is that? So always look for an upside with the property. So for instance, add a dwelling, add another bedroom. So that way you instantly create that higher cash flow or equity or both. But remember that the property still has to work when you buy it. So don't buy on potential, and always be safe and do your numbers. We always know what our number is going to look like before buying the property. So that way you already know how the property is going to perform. For instance, this property given us 9.5% yield, which is how much income the property generates. Does that make sense? Cool. I see you chitching there, Carol. Thanks. Awesome. So now we are playing the dice. So here is our property number 2. So this one, we were using equity in the previous property to purchase this one. So this one was bought during first lockdown last year. So as you can see as well, it had a bit of a water damage. Or you can't see, but yeah, you can see the wall stripped out up on the left corner there. So we were using our power team on the ground and our builder to help determine what it would cost us to repair the water damage. So problem equals opportunity. Problem equals opportunity. So we just we knew how much it was going to cost to repair. So we that is not a problem, right? So we stripped out the walls, as you can see. We removed, there's a hot water tank there that had a leak and there was a fire, removed all of that. And that also opened up that space in the kitchen. So we had a bigger kitchen, which was good. So you will learn more about creating your power team as well at the Cashflow Masterclass. Awesome. So here we have some after photos, and yeah, you can see more of the walls being stripped out. So as you can see as well, we haven't moved the location of the sink or even the oven. So that way you save cost. If you don't have to, specifically with plumbing, that can get very expensive. So if you can leave it where it is, do that. That way you save cost as well. And do you remember I told you to pay attention to the other kitchen and bathroom after photos? So do you remember the bench top and light pennants from the other house? So they are all the same. So you can see there, so stick with what works for you. So find your template. That way you can buy in bulk, you can buy on sale, and you save money. So even the staging is the same here. I don't know if you noticed, but the kettle's the same. There's a toaster there, and even that flour is the same. Cool. And the bathroom, again, it's all same. So stick to what works for you. That way you save time and money. So it's the same paint color, it's the same flooring, same tapware, same light fittings, the mirror is the same. So same. And yeah, you can see the before photos, it was chaos. Awesome, so let's look at some numbers for this one. We bought him at 240, so he was actually listed at 269, but that fell through. So we got it under contract for 240. So we bought it below value, if that makes sense. So we had a bit of leverage by knowing about that water leak. So we managed to negotiate it down to 240. So the cash flow on this one is 601. That's the cash flow after expense per month. So if you following along, you will see that we're now at about 1,100 per month in passive cash flow, which is pretty cool, right? Awesome. So again, after an estimate 350, the yield of about 7 on that one, equity creation of 20%. Thank you, Carol. Yes, I'm calling it a he. Perfect. So let's look at the next one. Oops, come on. Here we are. So now we're really playing Monopoly. So here we were looking for our next big deal. So we were now trading 2 houses for 1 hotel using leverage. So using none of our own money. Thank you, Annie. So here is our hotel. So this is a 350 square meter, 8-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. And there's a separate 139 building at the back there. You can see, so that had a 1-bedroom, a kitchen. So that's all on a 1,000 square section. So lots of options with this one. So let's take a closer look. So we were working through at least 3 different options before buying this property. So we used a power team on the ground in Invercargill to help with the diligence. So we're talking to several different property managers and discussing different options for that 2-story building at the front there. So one option was to convert to 5 units. One option was to rent as 1 tenancy, all 8 bedrooms, or do a rent by room situation, 5 bedrooms, or do a boarding house. So this one is right around the corner from SIT and right in town. So it's great for students, great for worker accommodation. So we were discussing all these different options with our power team, and we decided in the end on a rent by room option, which would give the best cash flow and yield for the least amount of money and effort. Plus, we were going to subdivide and convert the second building. So what you see there on the left is actually the subdivision plans. So we are dividing the section in half. So you can see the line going through in the middle there. So each property would then be on their own title. Does that make sense? Cool. So, let's see. So here we have, again, just a different view. So you can see again that property at the back there. So that's the one we're going to convert. So you can see that lovely red carpet. That's probably my favorite. So yeah, so that's a 139 square meter, just like an open room, unconsented. So we were going to convert that into a 3-bedroom separate dwelling. Awesome. So here are the plans for that conversion. So again, it's just a simple conversion, 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom plus a garage. So we have resource consent granted for this one. Still waiting on a building consent. So this is still a live deal. This is still ongoing. So we have options later to convert another 3 bedrooms and a bathroom or 3 rooms into another separate dwelling, which is part of that 2-story building. There's a lot of options with this one. So we still have further upside with this property to create even more equity and cash flow later on, which is pretty cool. Awesome. So let's look at some pretty pictures. So this one is just a kitchen in the 2-story building, just before pictures, obviously. So this renovation was completed in February this year. And pay attention to the lovely carpets in the kitchen. Beautiful. So here is the kitchen after. So as you can see as well, the kitchen is all the same, but you probably noticed maybe that the kitchen bench is different. So the kitchen bench was sold out in the color that we normally got. So we had to choose another color, but that still works, right? And here is the living room. So we only had the carpets done in this, in the rest of the house. So the walls were still in good condition. So we put up new curtains and new light fittings in most of the rooms. So only do what you have to do. So there's no need to paint the walls if they are okay. That way you save money. Makes sense? Cool. So let's look at some numbers for this one. Awesome. So purchase price of $590. So the renovation cost there includes renovation of the 2-story building. That includes subdivision and a conversion of the second building at the back. So after reno and after subdivision, estimated value is 1.1 million. And projected cash flow of $3,394 per month. And that's after expenses. And this one is we are providing power, internet. We have a cleaner coming through as well. So this is after all the expenses each month. What do we think about that? Is that okay? Do we hear another cha-ching, Carol? Perfect. So once this one is completed, we are halfway to our goal of financial freedom. Just like that, with one property. How cool is that? Thank you, Carol. Awesome. Cha-ching, yes. Cool. So the next plan for us is to subdivide and put a transportable home at the back of Morton Street. And we're also looking for another hotel. So we're looking to buy another type of Esk Street deal, which is really, really exciting. So I will leave you with this quote. The sky is not the limit. Your mind is. So thank you so much. I know I cannot hear Jono, so I'm just gonna leave you to it. So enjoy listening to the rest of the speakers. We have the lovely Belinda, and we have Tim coming up shortly as well. So I'm just gonna say back to you, Jono, and thank you so much, everyone.
Therese, that was amazing. Thank you so much for that presentation. I know that a lot of people got a lot out of it, and your journey is exceptional. Congratulations on it. I want to actually point out, though, how you keep saying, does that make sense? You know what? It doesn't make sense. It makes a whole lot of dollars. That's what that makes. It was really cool listening to you, Therese. A fantastic job on your journey, and really, really exciting for the future. Right. I'm very excited to be bringing on our next guest, and Belinda's a exceptional investor, and really, really is a treat for us to have on today's summit. But before I do get to that, I want to share a couple of quotes with you, because we know how much I love my quotes, especially Robert Kiyosaki. Financial freedom is a mental, emotional, and educational process, which brings me to point number 3 in my keys to creating the ability to use Monopoly in real life. And that is that not all properties are created equal. I can't stress that enough. if you are out there and you decide, well, property seems to be a great vehicle. I heard on this Monopoly Summit that if I just buy a property, I'm going to make money. That is definitely not the case. It's about having the knowledge. So no matter when you roll that dice and you land on a specific square, you make the decision based on knowledge, based on education, and based on having the ability to make an informed decision. Before I bring up Belinda, Wealth Mentors top tip. It's something we share all the time, a really, really important concept. Buy property as though price of the property will never increase. Buy property as though it will never, ever increase in value. If you have that mentality, you go into your transactions, you will find the ability to create the financial freedom you deserve. You will find the ability to create the equity, the uplift, the equity uplift that you deserve for your portfolios. Excuse me. On that note, I'm very pleased and proud to bring Belinda up. Team, can we get Belinda up next to me and make sure that we're working off? Belinda, can you hear me? Awesome. We just make sure that everyone can hear you. I can't just yet. Nimesh, we got the...
How's that now?
Right, yeah, we've got you. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Jono. How are you going?
I'm doing great, thank you. Missing having you in the studio with these situations, but at least you get to hang out in Raglan and enjoy the beautiful surf. We caught up yesterday for a brief chat, and you'd just been on the surf, and it inspired me then to go and play 9 holes of golf yesterday afternoon. So thank you for that. I'll give you the credit on the inspiration for my golf yesterday. On that note, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand you over. I'm going to walk away and grab myself a coffee and let you take over. As I said before, we're so excited to have you on here. Absolute exceptional investor and exceptional teacher. So I'll hand you over. Have some fun, Belle, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Jono. I did promise Jono that I'd be rolling into this chat from the surf this morning, and I did indeed have a great time in the surf this morning. So let me just bring up my screen. All right, Nimesh, have you got that? Sweet. Ladies and gents, how's your Monopoly journey going so far? I'll start with a little bit about me. 15 years in the Royal Australian Air Force. I've flown some pretty interesting aircraft in some interesting places around the world, and I've done some pretty interesting missions, and that's about all I'm allowed to say about that. I've dug pits and evaded enemy with tracking dogs through the mountains. I've sat in a life raft for 14 hours. I've gone without food for days in survival training. I've lost oxygen at 20,000 feet as a 2-ship pair and had to recover myself in a low oxygen environment. And we regularly in my job go pull 6 times the force of gravity doing aerobatics routines. It's all part of living outside your comfort zone. And the last 5 years of my career, I was spent teaching others to live at the edge of their comfort zones safely. And perhaps if you're a little uncomfortable about the concept of money or placing big amounts of money into an asset or what you hope is an asset, you might understand why someone like me can be talking to you about getting out of your comfort zone. I say on that slide that you can see they're mostly retired, and that's because you don't do aviation, and you particularly don't do military aviation if you don't love it. So the privilege of my journey is that once I'd created a passive income and didn't need to work anymore, I could work on my own terms. And as a pretty rare commodity as a female advanced flying instructor towards the end of my career. So the Air Force allowed me to come back and make guest appearances and fly for fun. So passive cash flow, we were able to build up to 6 figures and some. It's been as high as 200,000 per annum, changes with whichever properties we're rolling with at the moment, what the incomes are, and interest rates, of course, but sits comfortably between 6 figures once and twice over, regardless of sort of market circumstances. In the last couple of years, we've created over $3 million worth of equity as a combination of forced appreciation and market growth. And my investment journey began in December 2017 when I met Wealth Mentor and did a proper education. So this is not
a get rich quick scheme. You've got to go around the board, so to speak, a couple of times, but it's not slow either if you get the right process. So you might be asking, and I hope you are, because I most enjoy people who are not afraid to challenge and ask questions. And I certainly had a lot of questions when I was at the same point in my investment journey as you guys are now. Why should you be listening to me on the topic of wealth? Simple. I've done it. But more importantly than that, I'm not a broker, a banker, accountant, or economist. I don't have insider financial market information or background education. Working class family. I worked hard at school. I got a degree. I joined the military. I'm just like anybody who has worked hard, got a job, except for specific education in property investment. We pilots like to say it's not really that hard to be a pilot. It's pretty simple, really. Push the stick forward, trees get bigger. Push the stick back, trees get smaller. Or there's plenty of air up there, just don't hit the edges. But you do have to follow a known process to be able to pilot one of those things. And you know what? It's no different to property investment. So I worked hard at school and got a job. I thought I'd probably work through to retirement, maybe buy a negatively geared house or two. The great Australian dream, right? Or the great Kiwi dream. That's what they sell us anyway. And that's what our parents were sold. But at 10 or 11, I thought if I was going to have to work my whole life, I might as well work at a job I like doing. So I pursued aviation. I've had a fantastic career. Moments like busting through a cloud layer in a foreship with my mates on my wings and it's coming up with this cloud deck, low-level simulated target runs over some of Australia's greatest features and lots of its vast outback, overseas missions into remote areas, and many, many moments of pushing my personal envelope. But there is a downside. By 30, I found myself burnt out. I never saw my family, and I destroyed any of the intimate relationships I'd tried to build simply by my absence from them. About that time, I met a property investor called Dean, and he said to me that I could make more than enough money in property to retire in a couple of years and just fly for fun. I was pretty skeptical. If it's that easy to make money doing property, I said, why doesn't everyone do it? And the answer he gave me has stuck firmly in my mind. He said, Belinda, it's because they don't know that they can. There's no doubt that my military training has contributed to my success as a property investor. One thing the military is really great at is teaching how to take lots of information, sort out what's important, and select an action. We're experts then at examining whether that action is getting the results you want, and then going back into the process. If that's not the result, do something else. You might know it as test and adjust or a decision-making OODA loop. But I'm going to show you the one that I use here all the time. Now, I'll take comments if my whiteboard isn't being a particularly effective teaching tool. All right, team? M for us is basically just manage the situation. So don't do anything that's going to make the situation worse. So if you apply that to your finances, don't take big risks. This is A is for assess available information. I think the most important point to make here is that it's assess available information, not spend 5 years researching 99.9% correct answers. There's no such thing. Action is always going to get you where you want to go quicker than extended periods of research. T, take action. E, evaluate that action and go back to the start. And that's why it's called a OODA loop. So you'll see why this is important to my investing career in just a moment. This key is skill to lots of things. It's key to how you fly an aircraft, test, adjust, both in the learning process, but also in the precision flying process. Nothing is ever static. Everything is always changing, and therefore you are always testing and adjusting a result. But we applied this to property, and you'll see the results in just a moment. So when I'm not speaking, I live in a small surf town, Raglan. I work our property businesses a couple of days a week, hang out with the kids, brew kombucha, do yoga. Basically, I went from working 60 plus hours a week to doing what I love, with whom I love, with a much higher degree of freedom, as well as having a comparable income. It's really important that I say 2 days a week, right? I didn't want to buy myself a new way to swap time for money. I wanted freedom. That's what wealth is to me, freedom and owning your own time. But the cash flow strategy that we used quickly allowed me to retire without a drop in household income. This was also really important for us. We didn't budget our way to better cash flow. We bought cash flowing assets. Budgeting doesn't work in our household. I can't count the number of times we've tried. My husband's other name is Captain Impulse. And you can guarantee that if he goes out shopping, he comes back with a car boatload full of stuff saying, but darling, I saved us money. They were 3 for the price of 1, so I bought 9. I'm sure there's some people out there that can relate to this. But that 2 days a week work through 2020, a year of great fear, especially in the financial sector, saw me add over $2 million of forced appreciation and growth, as well as an additional 6 figures to our portfolio. But I don't feel like I'm starting at the beginning of the story. So let's start at go with the roll of the dice. We were, in 2015, 2016, 2 very tired parents with a negatively geared house or 3, 2 full-time jobs, and a brand new baby. And we were thinking the best way to get ahead was to buy property. And this is what we bought. I started investing in Perth, Western Australia, where I lived. In Perth, if demand rises, they just bulldoze some more sand dunes and build a whole new suburb. I was better researched than most at what I should buy. I'd watched the market for about 6 months. I'd picked a premium suburb. I bought very close to the train line in a suburb that had plenty of infrastructure projects in the pipeline. Our accountant said it's a great investment. This is a great first house. It was essentially off the plan, and it was negatively geared. I didn't really understand why I should buy a house that was negatively geared, but my accountant assured me that it was the best strategy for my salary. It baffled me at the time, but I couldn't think of anything clever to say back to her. But what I should have said was this: why should I spend $1 to get 30 cents back at tax time when I could make $1 and give the taxman 30 cents? But I just didn't have that comprehension of what was really going on. So I followed the advice of my professional. But the market was going down in Perth, and it continued to go down for the next 5 years. As you can see from the figures there, I purchased just over $500,000, all in for $525. Income per month, so that's just what it would rent for, and I did rent it after 6 months and claiming the first homeowner's grant. Negative $400 a month. So $400 a month out of my pocket, I'm paying tenants to live there. I eventually sold this after I got a wealth mentor property education for a loss of $50,000 over 5 years. So not only did I lose the $4,000 a month, so nearly $5,000 in negative gearing per year, I also lost $5,000 per year on it in real value. So this is a buy and hope strategy. And this is where the OODA loop came in. I remember saying to my husband, I bought this house before we met and married. I was saying to him, we want to be multimillionaires in 5 years. How is this house getting me there? Assess available information, take action, evaluate. I can't see how this is getting us there. And he said, be patient. My accountant's great. She's given us good advice. Let's buy another one. So not only did we buy one of these, by the time we met Wealth Mentor, we had 3 of these, and we were going backwards for a total of $100,000 per year in negative gearing. It hurts me to say it. But this is important because I was evaluating going, this isn't right. We're doing it wrong. So we swallowed our egos and got ourselves a proper education. And here I actually want to share you my biggest lesson. Every investment property is a business. Here's my house when you've learnt to buy houses the Wealth Mentor way. I'm going to stick it in a box because that box is my business. It's got income, basically in a buy and hold strategy. That's your rental income. It's got expenses. So rates, management fees. I don't want those calls about leaking toilets and gutters and stuff. That I'm making sure I'm building it into the budget that's all covered. So, and then you have a result of that, which is your cash flow. So this is your income after all your expenses are taken out of, including an allowance for repairs and general maintenance. All right. So I'm also going to ensure that the house I buy is worth more when I've finished doing what I want to do to it than the cost of buying it plus the renovation for it. And that's called forced appreciation. And that allows me to make a deposit for my next house because I've created more value than I've spent. And the third marker I want in a house is I want a growth market. So in each property I buy, in each business package that I buy, I make money 3 ways. Cash flow, forced appreciation, which allows me to cycle my money out into the deposit for my next house, and growth. Now, growth brings me long-term generational wealth. We don't see the benefits of growth for many years. In some markets, like the recent markets, to be fair, you might see significant benefit from growth over a 2 or 3 year period. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we certainly have. But we never buy for growth. That's an added bonus. But we do buy in areas that are likely to grow. I know Jono is going to talk more about that. So make money 3 ways with every house. And each house is a business. So already, just from having shown you that house in Perth, was that a good business? And I hope you're all going, no, that was a terrible business. It made negative cash flow. I did not force appreciation at all, and its growth declined. Not a good business. So, slide, thanks. Cash flow allows for serviceability. The great thing about the New Zealand banking sector is that they allow the cash flow from your property business to contribute to your overall serviceability, which means that if you buy the right house with enough cash flow, every house you buy increases your serviceability. And that's incredible because it allows you to accelerate your portfolio quite quickly. Forced appreciation, that's your money in, money out, or the money for your next deposit is what's also known. And growth, of course, is that generational wealth. So let me show you a deal I bought after my Wealth Mentor education. 28 Harrison Street, Wanganui. Such a dump that the ad said, demo and rebuild. Now I got my building team in there quickly. And I want to make the point also that I did this deal from Perth and never saw the house. So anybody who's stuck in lockdown or listening to this from Australia, I do want to assure you that investing remotely in the New Zealand system is actually very, very easy. In fact, it can be an advantage not to be in location because you don't have the option to buy in emotionally because you're not there. It's just numbers on a spreadsheet. So, yeah, I sent my building team through. My builder, I remember listening to him talk for a while about structural stuff and roof condition and flooring. And while that was all important, there was really only one thing I wanted to know to him. I said, Bob, that's actually his name, Bob the builder. Bob, would you buy it? And he said, if I had the money, I'd be buying it right now. And I said, thanks, that's all I need to know. And I closed the deal. So we spent nearly as much on renovations as we spent on acquiring the property in the first place, but you'll see why it was a good decision. Let's have a look at the numbers. Purchase price, just a tad under 100K. Now, I'll give you some context to that as well. Probably going a house for 100K, seriously. 2 years ago, I was told you couldn't buy a house for under 100K, and then I did. Renovations around about the same. I've added in some fees there for a total of 180,000 all in, revalued at 235, giving me an immediate wealth creation of 55 or forced appreciation. So it also cash flowed over $1,000 a month. So tick, tick. Let's talk about growth. Now, obviously, you can only talk about success of the third way to make money after some time has passed. So I'm nearly 2 years past having done that deal, and we're actually just looking at selling it to liquefy some assets back into Australia. And I've just been told it'll sell. So 235 revalued 2 years ago to put it on the market with a 4 in front of it. So not bad. But these numbers are crunched within a month or two of the renovation being finished. And even at that point in time, the return on investment was 82%. Not bad for a beginner. The thing is that with a deal like this, where you can take a lot of the seed capital out and place a new deposit, you can do 3 or 4 of those a year. And suddenly that return on investment is, 80 times 3 or 4, so 300% return on investment. Who'd like to be making their money work that hard? This is how 4 green houses make a red hotel. Right. Here's the next point I want to make. Great deals are created, not found. So if all deals sat on the market with an 8% return and the ability to have 50K more value after you've done a simple renovation, everyone would be buying them. So like anything, any creative skill set requires first learning a process, like getting a technique, and then practicing it. So in the context of property investing, the skill set is learning the numbers and the process, and the practice is talking to people who are also property investing, being in networks or groups, practicing crunching numbers, watching a market for a little while. And in that way, property investing is exactly the same as any creative endeavor, like painting. You learn a painting technique and then you practice painting. And so I just want to make the point that it's creative. So you create great deals. The deal I just showed you, Harrison Street, was created from what the agent thought was a demo job. And the reason we were able to create such a big equity uplift was because it had a large floor space. And so we looked at the internal layout of the house and went, well, what can we do to this? And the answer was, instead of being a 2-bedroom house with a lot of wasted space, is it became a 3-bedroom house with an open plan kitchen living area. And that's where the value from. We created something it did not have. So I'm going to just quickly go through a list. There's not enough time in this forum for me to really dive into all the different creation strategies I use, but you can add a room. You can renovate and improve condition. You can subdivide, so create smaller parcels of land. You can change its use, so it can go from commercial to residential or something, and then it may have a higher value to a valuer or the market. You can add a removable cabin or room out the back. You can do a garage conversion. You can increase income to increase value. You can solve a problem that nobody else wants to, because simply by solving that problem, you take the value away with you. So for example, meth, significant disrepair, leaky homes. These are solving problems that nobody else wants to solve. You then take the profit. And because it's creative, you get better at it over time. One of my own mentors said to me, every deal that you do should be the best deal you've ever done. Think on that for a second. And I would say that by and large, it has been true for us. Every deal that I've done has been better, not because I've found a better and better property, but because I've created a better and better business. Right, let's talk about the Red Hotel. This used a combination of nearly all the methods of forced appreciation that I just talked to you about. I had used most of the methods we spoke about over the previous 10 or so smaller deals that I'd done. Smelly cat houses, adding bedrooms, gang streets, subdivisions, cosmetic and structural renovations, adding cabins. This deal was done in the midst of the drama that was 2020. In fact, this deal settled the first week of lockdown in New Zealand, 1 week after I had a baby. So the settlement paperwork was being drawn while I was still in hospital, and then lockdown happened, I think, the following week. So we settled this motel empty, suddenly vacated, and we were locked down for 3 or 4 months. 30 empty rooms, huge debt, no prospective tenants. We also closed this deal no money down, essentially. So that is to say we used an asset lender to secure the bulk, and then we borrowed the deposit from private investors. But we were trained to think like a business. So when things got challenging, we weren't able to fill it with tenants because no one was able to move house, if you recall, in February, March 2020. We pivoted. Who needs what we have? Rooms, emergency services, people on the street. So we had this great opportunity during the lockdown of 2020 to support the homeless in the community, and emergency services used our rooms for people that had no other options, and we were able to break even on some of the high interest debt there. And to this day, a percentage of our business remains with social housing programs. So we certainly caught the attention of the local media at the time. People really needed a good news story. We did contactless curbside pickups to furnish the rooms for people that needed them. And of course, you can see my 2 daughters there, and particularly the infant, probably just a couple of weeks old there, taken from Raglan here. So the motel itself existed of 8 sort of traditional style motel units. You can see those in the sort of top 2 pictures. It had 3 houses on the site as well, full houses, and this really big villa you can see in that bottom picture there. And the villa was broken into 3 internal apartments. It's an 1830s original settlers mansion, basically. We restored its name, its original Maori name there, Totarapuka, which comes from the totara tree. It was built from totara wood back in the 1830s. And the 2 gentlemen you see there, they're the local kaumatuas doing a blessing on the site. You can see also that I have my 3-month-old baby strapped to the front there. And I just want to say there's no good time to bite off on a big deal. There's no good time to get involved in property investing. There's no good or perfect time to buy a house. Just get on with it because there's no excuse for you not to take steps to get wealthy. Do you want to have a look at the numbers with me? This is what it did for us. Without going into too much detail in the numbers, 1.7 mil. We did round about 200K worth of sort of cosmetic renovations, change of use, resource consent, etc. We were all in for, let's just call it 2 mil because that's easy for me to do maths in front of a camera. Revaluation came out at 3.1 mil 8 months later. $1 million worth of equity right there. I also don't mind saying that a further 8 months later, we've put about the same again of equity into it. Income per month, you can see the annual cash flow is up at 140,000. 3 years ago, I couldn't have even imagined this deal existed. I was concentrating on my basic buy and hold strategy, buying one house at a time. But the thing with that process is it's creative. You learn, you get better at it. and you start seeing opportunities. They were always there. You just didn't know how to recognize them. So if you're looking around you now and you're not seeing opportunities in the current market with all the changes, then you just don't know where to look. You don't know how to look, or you don't know what you're looking for. That's what a professional investor does. They see things differently and they turn them into opportunities. And the greatest thing about all this is I didn't have to create the process. I paid someone to teach me the process. Then I just copied it. And then I scaled it. And my husband likes to say this a lot. It used to annoy me, but now it's just part of the process. Dreams are free. Houses are not free, but they will bring you your freedom. Great wealth is something you can certainly achieve on this property journey, but for me, it comes down to this. I've been fortunate enough to have an awesome job, but there came a time when that job came at a price I wasn't willing to pay anymore. But to leave it would have meant huge financial uncertainty. And my security came from my job. Without it, I couldn't see a safe way forward. But with it, I had no time for the people I loved. And without time, I felt poor. For me, wealth is about owning my own time and having choices, choosing who to spend that time with, choosing what to do and when. My father-in-law, Rob, waited until retirement age to live the life he really wanted. He worked hard his whole life to provide for his family, and he retired with plans to surf and caravan his way around Australia. But 6 months after he retired, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and 6 months later, he was dead. You can't buy back time. All I can do now is give myself time while I'm here to spend with those I love right now. So I think I just want to summarize by saying there is no good excuse not to move forward right now. If not now, then when? And that's me, Jono.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Have I come back?
Yeah, gotcha.
Awesome. We had a little bit of a tech issue. You should see Namesh when there's a slight tech issue. It's like he's having an panic attack back there. But we're back, Belle. Thank you so much for sharing. I always find every time I listen to you present, I learn something as well from you. And I really appreciate you giving up the time to come and join us today. And the great thing, guys, is Belinda will be joining me as one of the lead speakers at the Cashflow Masterclass. You get to spend 3 days learning from Belinda and seeing how she has managed to transform an exceptional business there. So congratulations on all you've achieved. And thank you so much for giving up the time to come and share with everybody today. I know that everyone's very appreciative and some lovely comments coming through in the chat. So thanks, Belle, and we will see you later on.
All the best with your journey, guys. There's nothing more worthwhile for you to start than a property investment journey. It is a skill for life.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. See you later. Belinda touched on a couple of key points there. She keeps talking about the concept of a buy and hope investor versus a professional investor. I want to share you 2 slides really quickly before I bring Tim up here to talk about his wicked deal that he just recently closed on. Slides, please, Namesh. A buy and hope versus a professional investor. Let's have a look at a buy and hope investor quickly. Buy is based on feelings. It's an emotional purchase. It's based on how you feel about the property. It's going to be buying without any sort of plan in place. You need to create a plan to get the best results, to create the best opportunity for you to achieve those results. No education, no understanding. You're relying on market growth, and it is a risk because if the market changes, you're going to put yourself in a tricky situation. Essentially, you are just investing based on a crystal ball. You are a speculator. But as a professional investor, you are constantly upskilling yourself. You are becoming the best version of yourself as an investor. There is a plan in place to create the goals, to understand what you're looking to achieve and how best to get there. Working with professionals. You've heard the word power team being thrown around a lot today. A very, very vital part of everybody that you need to have around you. And no matter what the market does, you are able to make money because you are educated and you understand the principles. It is all based on buying in the terms of the numbers. Very, very important. And lastly, you surround yourselves with experts. Your network is your net worth. You've heard this concept as well. Buy and add value, because buying below value and adding value is equity gain. And this gives you the ability to leverage and buy more, which brings me to point number 4 in my keys to playing Monopoly in real life. Relationships matter. I have built my property investment business based on relationships. I have formed the best relationships I possibly can in terms of trying to get a win-win for everybody. This in turn has meant that a better portfolio for myself and better results financially for me and my family. It gives me great pleasure to be able to bring Tim on really shortly, because I believe that Tim is an absolute legend in this field. He has joined us very recently in terms of the Wealth Mentor family. We've only just met him less than a year ago, and to see what he's been able to achieve in such a short period of time. And now he's been pulled in to a summit to be able to present. I know that he's got some nerves and he's excited at the same time. He even messaged me and told me he was doing a bit of jumping beforehand to get pumped and get ready to present. So it's really exciting to have Tim joining us. Nimesh, can we bring Tim up and make sure that everything's working correctly? And I will grab, there he is.
Welcome. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
All right. There's a funny accent. I'm not quite sure if So Tim, we met just under a year ago now, where he attended a cashflow masterclass and has gone on to buy a really, really cool property. Tim, I'll give you the floor for just a couple of seconds to introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about who you are before we actually get into showing a really cool deal that you're currently completing on.
Sure, thank you. So my name's Tim Williamson. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a father and a partner and a business owner. So I'm actually a registered builder and a licensed plumber by trade, and run a bathroom renovation business in Melbourne. And yeah, managed to get on to Wealth Mentor through a summit, actually in person. I think it was probably one of the last in-person presentations you guys would have done before the pandemic hit the entire world. So that was interesting, and got to listen and hear a bit about you guys, and then managed to sort of continue through and head into the Cashflow Masterclass, which was brilliant.
Yeah, it was wicked. It was actually Tim joined us on our very first virtual Cashflow Masterclass, and Tim actually joined us on one very recently as well, and he was very impressed with how much we've grown in that space, been in that virtual space. So it was a lot of fun to have him on that one. There's a little bit of a story, and we'll explain later about why you are called the Cookie Monster as well. Don't let me forget that one, Tim. So you went out there, all right, and you are deciding that you are going to become a property investor. You've made this decision. And then you decide to go and get yourself educated. You join us at a Cashflow Masterclass, and you purchase an absolutely ripper deal. Why do you think you were? Actually, let me reframe this. In terms of being able to complete on such a deal, what are some of the key elements? I've obviously dropped in already that relationships matter. What are some of the key elements for you as a educated investor going through the process of completing on this deal?
As you said, relationships are immensely important, and some of the relationships that Wealth Mentor have access to and have started to build are extremely key. Also, the education that you guys are able to provide gave me extreme confidence that what I was doing was there was definitely risk involved, but it was certainly a calculated risk, and it was something that through the education I had reduced my concerns. Everything that was a concern was, you could weigh that up justifiably and make sure that you're making the right decision. So I think education alongside with the relationships you guys have are paramount.
But I think you also really built on those relationships. And I'll take my hat off to you. I remember you telling me the story when you went over on completion of or halfway through completion of this property, and you actually went and took your property manager out for dinner. Those sort of elements are really key in forming strong relationships to ensure that you're getting the best result for your investments. Is that something that you have always, being seen a key part of you as a businessman, or is it something that you've really started to grow on as you've become a professional investor?
I think definitely growing as I become a professional investor, and sort of looking to play the game on my terms and how I think it should be played. Taking our property manager out for dinner was just a fantastic way of getting to know her better on a personal level, so we could further understand her driving factors and make sure that we could work well with her, make sure we're using similar language that works well in with her, and that way we're never really at odds with one another. Other members of our power team have gone above and beyond throughout the process of my investment journey so far, and something that I'd really like to do is to ensure that they've been sent some really nice, lovely gifts on completion of the work. And yes, we've paid them to do their job, I suppose you could look at it, but they always seem to go above and beyond. And if I want to make sure that they remember that and perhaps are willing to do that next time for me when we need to, then I'm never shy of sending through some lovely gifts, and I've sent you a few things as well for some helping hands along the way. And it's nice to see people get that extra bit of excitement and happiness and appreciation for you putting in the extra effort to reward them for their extra effort. And I think that really does go a long way.
Mate, epic. And that's correct. Tim actually has sent me through a couple of awesome gifts. One was the cookie story, which we'll get to, and also some beers. So for those of you out there, guys, address 501 Parnell Road. I quite enjoy a beer, and a cookie wouldn't go astray. But let's jump in and actually have a look at the first purchase that you made, which actually entailed, unfortunately, can we go screen on screen for this, please, Namesh? For some reason, the formatting's gone a little bit funny on this one. But we've still got the fundamentals there. You purchased a property for $640,000, but it's not just one, is it?
No, definitely not. It's actually it's 6 separately titled units, all with one in what was at one stage a massive mansion of a house, and then it's been internally divided and sectioned and then titled to be 6 separate units.
Cool. And you bought it for $640. You had costs involved of $10,000 in your acquisition costs and initial reports. But the property straight off the bat is actually creating a cash flow of almost $8,000. But that's certainly not the full potential of the property. But it does have an 8% at gross yield. So you must have gone into this with understanding, its current potential, but also the future or potential for this property. So what are some of the things you went into and identified as you went through that process?
Yeah, sure. So definitely realizing that the 6 individual titles was being completely undervalued in that sale. They were looking to sell all 6 as one purchase. And that was sort of what they were looking for. They wanted to just be done with it and move on with the existing owners. So that was certainly something that I identified early on that was, a huge benefit that was not fully being appreciated in that sale. The building itself needed significant repairs, and I think we talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. But like the roof was completely destroyed from a hailstorm 2 years prior, and they just left it in that terrible state. So it was sort of degrading damage internally. So that was, there was a lot of things that we could force appreciation through doing repairs, maintenance, and then there was also a good amount of rental increase that was quite possible. Once those, major repairs had been taken place, we could look at having sort of what the market value was in rents and getting a great increase on sort of income from that process.
Yeah, wicked. And it's going into it with that professional investor's eyes, is looking at its potential. Belinda just talked about that a lot, and it's a really, really key element. I also like the fact, and I'd like to draw people's attention to it, you've got your mortgage there, which is actually 100% mortgaged. That is because you actually were able to use equity in a home in Australia to buy a property in New Zealand. And for a lot of people, that's like, they're a bit worried about maybe using their Auckland property to buy property in New Zealand. You went and used your Australian equity available, leveraged it, bought property in New Zealand, 100% mortgage, but still creating an $8,000 cash flow. So that's exceptional. And I guess that is also part of the mindset shift that you've had as an investor to go into that space.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's just a matter of exploring those options, understanding, what levers you can pull on to make it happen, and work more on, what you can do versus, coming out with, excuses as to why you shouldn't do this. And exploring that again with relationships with mortgage brokers, both in Australia and New Zealand. What sounded impossible at one point in time was actually surprisingly easy once you go through the process, complete your forms, have the necessary steps done, of course. But to be able to buy a property in another country to which I live with none of my own money was quite an interesting process to go through.
And the interesting thing as well, during Cashflow Masterclass, so second day of Cashflow Masterclass, you decided that you were going to go to an auction in Australia and potentially bid on a property, which you obviously didn't go through with, and we're thankful for that. But it was interesting to see the transition for you going and seeing the buy and hope / potentially buying properties around your area to now creating an exceptional deal here. And it gives me great excitement to get to push the button again and show the next slide. I'll let you take the honors as I push the button.
Yeah, thank you. So it was actually funny because it was Belinda that I was talking to on the second day of the Cashflow Masterclass, and we were sort of having a bit of a one-on-one. And I was picking her brain on this property that I was looking at in Melbourne to purchase, and it was absolute shambles of a property. But at the time, I was like, well, that's the best I can find in my local area. And I remember Belinda being very, very kind in her words in terms of, oh, okay, well, yeah. And what have you thought about what we've shown you today? And the story goes that it would turn out to be an absolute rubbish property and was by no means something that I should have looked at any further. So I came back in on day 3 of the masterclass, and I was like, well, Belinda, you were right, and I'm here to see what else we can learn. So that was really good. But looking into the post-renovation side of things, as I mentioned, there was significant amount of work that was required, mainly being the roof, which you can see in that photo is extensive and detailed, and not just an easy to replace roof. So that made up the majority of that renovation cost. The rest was going through fixing a whole lot of deferred maintenance issues that were really impacting the tenants in terms of how they could actually use the properties, and also their health and safety within the properties. So of course looked at having all of that sorted first. Everything was brought up to Healthy Home standards for all of the 6 units, so that way we knew we were compliant moving forward. And there was even a couple that are still within there that technically we didn't have to, but I feel that ethically it's nice to know that you've done the right thing, by the tenants, and you can sort of sleep well at night knowing that. So we've gone through with rental changes now, taking into account, again, that mortgage figure is 100% mortgage at a tier 2 lending rate that is substantially higher than what is available for some New Zealand residents or some non-self-employed people. So certainly improvement there. And as you can see, we're looking at about $35,000 a year in cash flow after all expenses, including professional management, repairs and maintenance allowance for the property. We've got to have some specific testing requirements for the fire system in that building, and all those figures are included there. And you can see that still spits out $36,000 a year cash flow positive.
Yeah, and I guess this is a really key point that you touch on there is, if the deal works, the cost of the finance to be able to pull it across the line doesn't necessarily the key element to concentrate on. I mean, $30,000 almost of interest on this property is quite substantial. But the fact is, we got $101,000 of annual income coming in on this property. So you're still creating a really great income. And then when we go through and we're in the process of getting the valuation finalized, and we'd really hope to be able to have you guys a calculation today, but unfortunately it's not. Few headaches have come up on that one that haven't been finalized. So by the time you guys join us at the Cashflow Masterclass, I will get Tim to come back and join us and share with you guys the equity created, because it is going to be quite impressive when we see this. I mean, we've been looking at around a few of the numbers, both Tim and myself, and understanding where the value sits, and we're estimating somewhere north of 1.213 is where the numbers are looking. So let's see what our beautiful valuers come back with. So if we look at that stage, it's actually, we're talking about an equity uplift of not far off around that $500,000, which is really exciting. And we will make sure that we share that at the next Cashflow Masterclass. So coming back to the Masterclass, I've got a couple more slides of yours, but I want to come back to it. The Cookie Monster. You sent us cookies during the Cashflow Masterclass. You mentioned before that you're on the Saturday, you got yourself a one-on-one session, and that's part of the package of joining us at the Masterclass. You get to spend one-on-one time with the team like you got to spend with Belinda. But you sent us cookies because you wanted to make sure that we're a real office. You wanted to make sure that we were real people. Is that the truth behind sending us cookies?
Yeah, look, it was a two-pronged approach. Obviously it was nice to do something nice for others, but it was also, I was like, hang on, I'm talking to people in another country I've never been to. I better actually make sure that they are who they say they are and that they are where they say they are. I'm like, how can I do that relatively quickly and cheaply and live? And I was like, I'll just send them something on Uber Eats. That'll be good. We'll make sure it arrives, and I'll be able to track the little driver getting there, and we shouldn't have a problem. So managed to have a look around, and I did try. I think I tried for donuts or cupcakes first, but nobody nearby had anything too tantalizing. So managed to find someone who did some really amazing gourmet cookies, and sent quite a large box to the whole team. That was at that stage, you were all in the office. You're allowed to be then. The entire team got a monster box of cookies, and Kyron got caught red-handed with a massive mouthful live on camera, which is gold.
Absolutely. It was a funny moment, and you've now managed to get the idea of Cookie Monster. And the funny thing as well, Tim, we know each other pretty well, but the funny thing is we've never actually met in person. It's so weird, and I still quite haven't fathomed the concept that we've never met in person and what you've managed to achieve. It's really quite cool, and it's quite awesome to see again the relationship that we've managed to build. A big part of you sending cookies, I think, is maybe a part of it. Tim, if we can bring the slide back up, just for this one, because the annual cash flow that we're looking at, the next stage, there's you and Amy standing outside the front of the Timaru deal, is looking at a $45,000 plus. What is that next stage actually looking like for this transaction?
Yeah, sure. So next stage is a much easier step than the one that we've already gone through. Stage one was massive, and really getting everything to a point that it would, you could leave it at that point for some time moving forward if we wanted to, and that's why we've broken that into stages. So stage two just sees two of the remaining units. Probably, the more tired two of the six to be revitalized, things of new paint, new carpets, some curtains, just sort of simple things like that. One of the units at the moment is classified as a 2-bedroom plus sunroom, and with some minor adjustments we should be able to have that as a 3-bedroom, so some significant increase in rental return for that, and so just a matter of updating those two extra units. We'll see cash flow go up to about $45,000 a year positive.
That's brilliant. And I mean, would you have ever expected, when you did join us on a cash flow masterclass, that the journey would end up like this, and you would be buying the exceptionally high cash flow properties, high equity gain, and then you'd be pulled into a summit to be able to share your journey? I mean, that must be really cool. And talk to us a little bit about the growth of you as an individual.
Yeah, it's been fast paced and quick changing. You mentioned that I jumped on one of the other cashflow masterclasses that were happening a couple of weeks ago, and I think I've sat in now on 2 or 3 since the initial one that I did. And every time I come through, I get a chance to learn a little bit more. I've heard Belinda talk about her hotel deal at least 5 or 6 times, and I always seem to pick up something different in the deal that I think as my journey progresses and as I learn more, I understand a little bit more about what people are talking about when they talk about their deals. When they allude to certain things, you sort of get a better understanding having gone through it yourself, and then you can sort of apply those principles into your own circumstances. And I think you grow and you get better through that process. And that's something that I've really enjoyed with being with Wealth Mentor, just absorbing, knowledge from everyone that, like yourself and other presenters that we've had on, even your coffee catch-ups, to go through that process and just just leverage off other people's knowledge in terms of what they're doing and applying that to what I'm doing has just seen me grow and develop and become better. And, you know, what the next sort of purchases start to look like. You know, I sort of said out loud the other night to Amy, my partner there in the photo, and she sort of looked at me like, are you crazy? I was like, well, why not? You know, like we've got the knowledge, we've got the know-how, like as long as we get the money side of things and everything ties together, like why wouldn't we go to the next step? So no, it's been awesome to have that growth trajectory and to reflect on where I was not even 12 months ago is massively different from now.
Yeah. Well, I said it to you before, Tim. I feel like a proud father. I'm going to leave you, Tim, for the final word. Bear in mind, you know, we've got a number of people on here today, a number of people that'll watch in the future, and you'll also be joining us on Wednesday at Q&A, so you can share your story there. But just a final word for anyone there considering jumping in and doing Cash Flow Masterclass and spending 3 days. I mean, you talked about the fact you get a one-on-one with the team. You end up having multiple one-on-ones with pretty much all the team members during the masterclass, which is awesome. We love spending time with the different people and being able to share our knowledge. But your last word on Cash Flow Masterclass, I'll hand over to you, my friend.
Thank you. It's a really, really simple one for me. I think, especially in terms of the Cashflow Masterclass, you have so much more to gain than what you risk losing by paying the entry fee. If you show up and you apply yourself over that 3 days and you take in that knowledge, provided you apply yourself after doing that education, there was really nothing stopping you from ending up with quite a significant property portfolio. You know, a lot of limiting beliefs that people have about their own situations, whether it's money or I can't do this or it's intelligence, all of that, you know, is addressed really, really well in that Cashflow Masterclass. And from that 3 days, just what I learned from that led me into buying these deals. And I just suggest that you've got so much more to gain than you do to lose. Roll the dice on the money. Fantastic quote that I heard the other day was, imagine playing the game of Monopoly and just going around the board endlessly collecting your $200 every time you pass go and never actually buying a property. And I thought, wow, that's so amazing. You're not even competing in the game, let alone playing to win. So I think roll the dice and take it on board and risk winning more than you have to lose for sure.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing. Thanks for joining us. It is always a pleasure to have you on here, and I'm sure we'll be touching base in the next couple of days. Have a great afternoon, and thank you very much. I know that there's a couple of really great comments coming through for you there, Tim. Awesome job, my friend, and we will speak to you shortly.
Thanks very much, Jono. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. I absolutely love hearing Tim's story. Really exceptional. And this is the power that we've got with our students, being able to show them the way that they can grow. And that comes down to my key principle number 5, which is expand your knowledge. Expand your knowledge and grow as an investor. Did you know that over 75% of the top 100 rich lists have made their wealth through property and property businesses? Property is such a powerful element, and when you learn to shift your mindset from the left side to the right side, you can start to increase your ability to create the financial freedom that you deserve. Another quote, this time by Nelson Mandela: education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Having a property education is so powerful because you have the ability to invest in all 3 major asset classes with property. When it comes to property, you have the ability to invest in standard real estate. We're talking traditional buy and hold. We're talking about flipping properties. We're talking about developments. We're investing in a sector that has outperformed every other sector for the last 50 to 100 years. It gives you the ability to control a large business, a large income generating business with bricks and mortar as your security, a major element and a powerful element that we have with investing in property. Business, we could be looking at actually creating syndicates. We could be property development, in property trading and creating a business that continually turns over property and creates a profit along the way. In turn, creating a better product for our tenants. We're talking about lease options. We're talking about growing to whatever number of properties suits you and your financial goal. the power of property is essential in terms of being able to create the financial freedom. I have not found a better asset class in terms of being able to create this. It really is the ability. It also has the ability to be shares. We're talking about having companies, we're talking about public syndications, joint venture. The ability for investing in property really is a powerful, powerful element. The last lockdown, like I mentioned before, we had over 30% growth in New Zealand. But again, the New Zealand government has just announced another $41 billion into the COVID recovery. This is going to drive asset classes. The time to act in terms of getting your investment education going is now. Wealth Mentor has educated thousands of students. We have been able to get out there and transform hundreds of lives. We've just seen from Belinda, who here you can see when the slides, there we go. You can see there from Belinda, a property, when her latest feature in the Property Investor magazine, make sure you grab that. It was in the September edition of the Property Investor magazine, an awesome article on Belinda's motel deal. I highly recommend pulling that one. Sip of water, 1 second, T. Our motto here at Wealth Mentor is the ability to make wealth accessible to all. Those dates that we have for the Cashflow Masterclass coming up in December, we have the 10th, 11th, and 12th of December. 3 days streamed virtually into your living room. It is a virtual event, but it is a completely interactive event. It's presented to you live here from our studio. We will be covering off hundreds of topics in terms of property. We're going to show you the different ways that you can create the financial freedom. We're going to show you the journey, show you the path to the financial freedom. I'm going to get the team to drop the link into the chat now so that you guys will be able to click on that and jump onto a page where you can fill out some information in terms of joining us at the Cashflow Masterclass. Remember, when you play Monopoly, you have to roll the dice. How about rolling dice with some certainty and some education behind every single roll? While some of you guys are filling out those forms, let me go into a little bit more detail exactly what it is in terms of the 3 days. Let's look at day number 1. On day 1, we will be taking you through the foundations of building a property business. We're talking about the ability to make money in any market. No matter what the market is doing, you have the education to be able to purchase the right types of property. Professional investor mindset, understanding exactly how to run your numbers. I've taken you guys through a couple of little calculations today, but during the masterclass, we will go in depth on understanding how to run numbers in terms of an investment, how to make the right investment decisions, deal analysis. I'm going to be sharing with you my 8 buying rules. You've heard from Therese earlier today that she has talked about her buying rules. You guys will have buying rules that you will leave the Cashflow Masterclass with and be able to make informed decisions in terms of your investments. Mindset is a huge element. We're also going to do a big topic on the market, understanding the market and fundamentals that you need to be aware of in any property market. Back on me. One of the most powerful things that we do on day 1, and this is no word of lie, is we will create an opportunity for you to make money out of thin air. We're going to show you how you can make money out of thin air. Not a word of lie that will be done. Saturday on day 1, we'll be showing you that. Day 2 is really where things start to hit the road. We're now starting to see some really great momentum in terms of understanding the knowledge behind becoming that professional investor. We're going to be showing you how you can invest with other people, joint ventures, using other people's money in terms of doing transactions. We're looking at different strategies now. We're going to have a look at what strategy could be right for you in your investing journey. Are we talking about boarding houses? Are we talking about trading? Are we talking about lease options? Getting into some of those elements that are going to work for you in your investment journey. We're going to be talking about cash flow, understanding exactly how to run our cash flow analysis. and getting the best out of our investment property. How do we finance the deals? Where does the money come from? How do we ensure that we're able to keep purchasing property? There's questions coming in the chat around serviceability, around lending, how that all works. We cover that in a lot of detail to make sure that you guys are on top of things in terms of creating that property portfolio. We also do the coolest thing on day 2. It's one of our absolute favorite parts of the Cashflow Masterclass. We play a property game, an actual real life game where you guys will get to, oh, am I giving too much away? You'll get to have the ability to buy a property in a game. It's a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to learn. The learnings that you get out of that game are exceptional. Day 2 is also when you will get to do your one-on-one sessions. We make sure that every single person that joins us on the Cashflow Masterclass gets one-on-one sessions with the team. You've met Belinda. She'll be one of the main presenters on the event. You've seen me. I'll be one of the main presenters, and we'll also have Karen joining us as well. You'll also have support from the likes of Therese and some other exceptional investors joining us to be there to help you guys and educate you guys through the 3 days. Day 2, we will also be scheduling a whole lot of one-on-one sessions where we can go through your specific investing strategy, your specific strategy in terms of achieving the goals that you want out of your investing. This is invaluable in terms of spending time with investors who have been there, done that, educated investors. Day 3, it all comes together. This is where we start to understand how we run our business efficiently. We go tax. You guys want to ask tax questions? How about an hour and a bit of tax on the Cashflow Masterclass, where we'll go into specific details in terms of taxes and the best way to structure yourself to be the most tax efficient. Remember, I said to you before, I want to pay as much tax as possible. Yes, I want to be tax efficient, but I want to pay as much tax as possible because that means that I'm making money. It's an opportunity to access all the world-class investors and learn from them. We're also going to get onto developments. Developments is a powerful element now in terms of property investing going forward. You need to understand how to do your subdivision, how to create minor dwellings, how to get your new CCC so we can get the advantages, the tax advantages of whatever's changing. So we will definitely be going into some details in terms of the development strategy. We'll also learn about who we have on our team and why we have them on our team. Who are the fundamental people that we want in order to make sure that our team is growing. Once again, that link is in the chat for you guys there. 3 full days at the Cashflow Masterclass, totally dedicated to your goals, your dreams, and what you want to achieve out of property. It is a practical, interactive event. You ask questions, we answer them. I always say that if you leave the Cashflow Masterclass and your question has not been answered, it is not because we didn't answer it, it's because you didn't ask it. We answer all questions, live interactive event. Our interactive virtual events, I believe, are second to none. It really is a great time to spend. As well as that, I'm going to be offering a money back guarantee on this because I have so much confidence that we are going to blow your socks off in terms of the Cashflow Masterclass. I offer it. I've never had to give it. Why not? Why would you not take up the opportunity to join us for 3 days? It is really a great opportunity. Let's have a look at the offer. So we've got 3 full days of the Cashflow Masterclass. I've already told you that it's going to be under $500 a day. If we have a look, you get your one-on-one strategy consultation. This is prior to the event, and as well during the event, you'll get to talk to myself or Karen. So if you book your Cashflow Masterclass, you will get a call that you can do with myself or Karen, one of our other mentors, prior to the event. You get access to our online portal at no charge whatsoever. You get lifetime support from Wealth Mentor. Anytime you need any assistance in terms of your investing, you get in touch with us and we will be able to support you through that. That's included in this private Facebook group for everybody that's attending. It's a great place to be, to share deals, to share knowledge, to share the interaction amongst exceptional people as you all grow together and create the financial freedom that you all deserve. Again, included. As I said before, we're doing it for under $500 per day, so just $14.97 for the Cashflow Masterclass. And everything is better when you do it with a friend. So for those of you that are joining us, you have your friend join for absolutely no charge. Bring along an investment partner and they can join you on the Cashflow Masterclass at no extra charge. But wait, there's more. Told you I'd be an infomercial. If you purchase your tickets today, you will get an additional $500 off your tickets to Cashflow Masterclass. Use the code BW500 in the excuse me. Cool. Use the code BW500 when you're filling out the forms, and you will be able to get the discount of $500. If you have any questions on that, please jump in the chat and let us know, and we'll get that code to you and ensure that you guys are getting the discount. It really is an exceptional offer. We're talking about 2 tickets for only $997. That's over $10,000 in costings for only $997. It really is a great opportunity, but you have to act right now to secure this price. Have a look at all the education that we've provided you today. In just 2.5 hours, we have been able to teach you so much in terms of investing. Imagine what we can teach you in 3 days. Imagine what we can teach you when you spend one-on-one time with the team. It really is an exceptional opportunity. The dates again, 10th, 11th, 12th of December. If those dates are concerns or you're not quite sure whether those dates work for you, then let us know. What we can do is make sure we get some other date options to you. Guys, if you book a call as well, we're going to put a link into the chat right now that gives the ability to book a call. I tell you what, if you book your call today, we will hold this price for you. We will hold this for $997 price for you. If you get on there, the link should be jumping into the chat right now. Click that link, book a call with one of my team. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have in terms of the Cashflow Masterclass, any questions in terms of what you have dates-wise. If there's anything that you'd like to clarify, there we go. There's a link going in the chat right now for you guys. The Cashflow Masterclass really is a great place for you to learn, to educate, to grow as investors. You need to jump in and decide what path you're going to take. What path are you going to take in going forward? It's time to decide. I've shown you again some exceptional investors and what they've managed to achieve by starting at the Cashflow Masterclass. It was my first starting place. And look at the change that you can create through joining us at the Cashflow Masterclass. Make a decision, change your life. Your options right now: do nothing, keep on doing what you've always done, or we take action. We invest in yourself and you grow. Your time is now. Once again, guys, the link is in the chat right now. To secure the $500, you need to jump in there and take that advantage today. If you have any questions, make sure you jump in and book a call with one of the team, because if you book the call, we will secure the price for you at that $997. The time is now. Make sure you jump on me, please, Nims. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the Monopoly Summit today. You have been an awesome group, and thank you very much for giving up your time. I cannot wait to see you at the Cashflow Masterclass. It really is going to be an epic 3 days. If you have any questions, make sure you've booked your call. And most importantly, guys, I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote of all. Have an awesome day and make sure that you stay awesome. See you, everybody.